Now then, just in case you're confused, I think that triathlon is superb and I will be a fan for life without question. However, there's no denying that one of the very real downsides of the sport is its expense. I mean, the required kit list alone can just seem to be never ending, and much of that equipment can seem to be frighteningly out of budget. Now, although there are lots of shiny bits of equipment out there, and we have joked in the past about the magpie stereotype here on the channel, you needn't feel that you must have lots of expensive equipment simply to be able to take part in a triathlon. So today, I'm going to run through what we here at GTN feel are your best value upgrades to get some more speed for your spend. Right, so I'll get things started with these upgrades in the water with the swim leg. And kicking it off is the wetsuit, because this is essentially the first bit of equipment that you're going to need when you're towing the start line on your race day. Now, interestingly with wetsuits, an upgrade needn't necessarily mean spending lots and lots of money. And an awful lot of people do fall into the trap of assuming that they need to buy the top of the range wetsuit, assuming fairly so that spending lots of money will be the best option. But actually this isn't always the case, and that might not be the most suitable option for you. What do I mean by that? Well, a lower range or less spec'd wetsuit tends to be constructed from neoprene that is thicker. And those thicker neoprene panels equal more buoyancy, which is a big advantage for those who don't have the best position in the water. So that is a big plus, and that is much different to a top of the range wetsuit that tends to be constructed from neoprene that is much thinner, especially around the arms and up into the shoulder regions, because in general, stronger swimmers will tend to have better flexibility. So what's the best bet for trying to get a wetsuit that fits you? I would say that you need to make sure that through the shoulders, the neck and the arms, you've got a good fit to your wetsuit, and that'll stop lots of water flooding down the back of your neck when you're swimming, and that will ensure, if you get it right, that you're gonna have a lot of time savings if you opt for an upgrade on your wetsuit, and that, I bet, will take plenty time off of your swim split. Right then, I'm still sticking with the swimming theme, and although this might seem like a little bit of a luxury, I'm going to suggest a new pair of goggles for race day. Now I'll be honest, I remember years ago a friend of mine telling me that he had brand new goggles every time he raced, and I couldn't believe it. But hear me out here for a moment, because there is a lot of upsides to having a brand new set of goggles when you're swimming, not least the perfect vision that you get out of a lens that's never been used before. And that means not only are you hopefully going to be able to see all those marker buoys to getting you around the course much easier, you should also have a vastly improved spatial awareness, meaning that you should be far more comfortable knowing where all the other swimmers are around about you, hopefully preventing you from bumping into people a lot more often, which should save you a chunk of time when you're out there in the water. Now, to be honest, I am suggesting that you have to have brand new goggles every time you race, but if you do want to have race-specific goggles, that would be a pretty good idea. Pop them back in a box and just keep them to next time you're swimming. For all of your regular swim training sessions, just use some old swimming goggles. Doesn't really matter what happens to the lenses in those. But honestly, I really think that if you invest in some new goggles for race day, you will definitely notice this as being a very good value upgrade. Give it a try. Now I'm moving on to the bike, but with this upgrade suggestion, I'm not actually going to be adding anything per se onto my bike, because what I'm talking about just now is how to be as comfortable as possible whilst riding it. And the easiest way to do that is, well, to get yourself a good quality professional bike fit. Now, it's only a few years ago that there wouldn't have been anyone other than the very committed even considering doing something like this. But it's become a very mainstream notion these days, and for some very good reasons too. Now granted, you will hear or read a lot about being as aerodynamic as possible, and yes, here on the channel we will talk about all the latest bikes and fancy bits of gear as used by the pros to try and access those coveted AERO gains. But the truth of the matter be told, for the vast majority of you out there, what you want to be able to do is be as comfortable as you can. And that's where a bike fit comes in, because ideally what that fit will provide is an AERO position that you can stay in longer because you're able to maintain that position comfortably. Or whether that be for the sprint distance or the full Ironman. And that means that you're then hopefully going to be able to get off that bike in T2 and run far more easily because of that comfortable bike position. So on that reason alone, I'd say a bike fit is a very sensible upgrade. Now, I'll happily admit that I have just talked about the fact that aerodynamics aren't necessarily the be-all and end-all when we're sitting on the bike. However, we can't discount the fact that it is us, the rider, that presents the most amount of drag to the wind. So we have to try and do our level best to try and reduce how much of our frontal area we do present to the wind. So, if you don't have a full time trial setup on your bike, fear not, because with a good set of these, some clip-on AERO bars that are well fitted to your position, you can go a long way to reducing how much of that frontal area you're presenting to the wind, and as a result, go quite a bit faster indeed. Sure, a top-end AERO full TT setup on your cockpit would be the end goal, but if you choose your clip-on bars wisely, then you can be going a good bit faster without nearly as much of the expense. And I guess for that reason alone, I'd say these are a seriously good upgrade to consider. Okay, so this next upgrade I'm going to touch on quite quickly because helmet choice can be a little bit more personal. But what I will say is it is quite easy to see pictures of the pro and elite athletes wearing full-tailed long AERO helmets with full visors and feel the need that you have to get something like that too. But in actual fact, these can be, well, quite negative in their impact on your race time. And that is because it's quite hard to keep those helmets in the right position for the duration of your race, especially if it's an Ironman. You can start moving your head around, especially if you look down, that tail is going to be pointing up in the air and actually start acting as a drag or an anchor rather than a sail. So a good option is actually some of these types of helmets, which are essentially a hybrid between a regular road helmet and those full AERO versions. Now, these I suppose are called AERO road helmets, and they're nice in that they still have a bit of a vented option, but not as many vents as a road helmet, a little bit more AERO in their construction and design, so I think they tick that bracket quite nicely. So I would give these a think about as your helmet upgrade option. I'm going to finish with this bike-specific section of upgrades by talking about what is a more expensive option. And these here are some AERO wheels, or as they're often described, deep section carbon wheels. And there's no denying that the type of wheels that you have on your bike are going to have a significant impact on how fast you're able to travel in your race. And as with many of these upgrades that I've already talked about in this video, the longer that race is, the more of an impact that these can potentially have on influencing how fast your finish time is. When it comes to describing these types of race wheels, they are often referred to with regards to their rim depth. And that can start anywhere for race wheels around about 40 mils. And that number can more than double as riders are seeking ever more AERO gains from their wheel sets. So I'm just going to finish up here with a fairly simple, but I'd say really worthwhile upgrade, and that is elastic laces for your run shoes. Now, there is little point in wasting all of the hard-earned time savings that you've just hopefully gained from perhaps listening to the upgrades I just thought about on the swim and the bike, only to hit T2, plonk yourself down and meticulously tie your shoelaces up and effectively fritter away a lot of those hard-earned gains because you've not got elastic laces. Now, a simple thing that I used to do when I was racing was just double check that these were nice and secure before race day, before I maybe put all my stuff in transition. I'd have a quick double check that the tension wasn't too tight. Bearing in mind, you're probably gonna have socks on too, so don't forget that. Do a couple practice runs so you can slip your feet in nice and easily, and also make sure that both shoes match up too, because you don't want to have one nice and tight and the other one far too floppy and falling off at the heel. These are a really simple upgrade. I think you'll save some time with them, so get yourself some elastic laces. Well, that's been my quick and fairly distilled list of good value upgrades that will hopefully make you go a little bit faster in your next race, but crucially without breaking the bank either. And of course, these are simply my ideas and thoughts on what could be good value upgrades, but if you've got some that you can suggest, then please get involved down there in the comments and let me know. I would love to hear about those. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video and it's been useful, so please hit that thumb up like button. Find the globe on screen to get all the other videos that we've made at GTN. And if you want to see a video about that magpie stereotype and many others that we talked about in 6 types of triathletes we all know, you can find that here. And for choosing your type of wetsuit, well, there's been a video all about that made here.